Ashley Victoria Robinson here on behalf of the amazing Comicbook.com that sent little old me to go see the Warcraft movie. Now I'm gonna lay out my review and recap for you, and it is spoiler free, so no worries there. Let's start out with my first major concern about this movie, which might hamper the way that you're gonna feel about the rest of this review, but I'm going with it. If you are not very intimately familiar with the World of Warcraft games and their various expansions, this is not a friendly movie, and it is not going to be a movie for you. This is really unfortunate because it is a rich and diverse world full of interesting characters and interesting settings. However, unlike in a movie like, for example, Lord of the Rings, where you have 4 Hobbit characters to act as your point of view, and when you're brought into Rivendell, they tell you why Rivendell's amazing and where we've heard about it before, and isn't it beautiful, and look, an elf. In this movie, unfortunately, you drop into Stormwind, and all it says on the map is Stormwind, and you don't really get a sense of what kind of people inhabit there, or whether it's the head of a kingdom, or if it's a fiefdom, but they have a king. So right off the bat, this is a confusing film to drop into. I think director Duncan Jones, who co-wrote the screenplay along with Charles Leavitt and Chris Metzen, really had a sense that they were only going to get fans coming out to this movie. But with fantasy being on the upswing again, with Harry Potter coming back into the zeitgeist, I think they missed a huge opportunity to fold in fans outside of the gaming community. Now, the lead of this movie is Anduin Lothar, whose names they switch between throughout the movie and don't quite tell you why, and don't tell you which is the first name and the last name. He's played by Travis Fimmel, who does an okay job throughout the movie, but his accent is so thick that sometimes he can't get his mouth around the words and he's a little difficult to understand. When you put him next to Dominic Cooper, Howard Stark himself, playing the King of Stormwind, who has a completely different accent, and you don't explain that they're not from the same place, it already starts to get confusing. Now, Dominic Cooper is doing the best job that he can to keep this movie together, and he is easily the best performance, but it is not enough to save this movie. Following a bunch of weird battles, we wind up with Garona, a female half-orc that they never really tell you what her other half is, played by Paula Patton, who is the only orc not in full CGI, but wearing really weird makeup that gives her kind of a lisp throughout the movie. Her story could have been the most interesting one of all of these. However, they relegate her to the same kind of role that Gamora played in Guardians of the Galaxy with a similar kind of name, where she's just there to be the pretty green girl, kiss the boy, even though they've had no chemistry throughout this entire movie. They miss a big opportunity with her to make her the biggest, baddest, most badass lady warrior that we're going to see throughout this movie, because Warcraft is a white dude heavy movie. And she just kind of winds up being a side piece, and it's really unsatisfying at the end. All right, let's talk about Durotan. He is played by Toby Kebbell, who, God bless him, is sure trying to do what Andy Serkis does with that mocap. Now, there are certain shots where Durotan looks absolutely stunning, and they're quiet scenes. There's a scene where he's sitting by the fireplace talking to his wife and looking at what may or may not be his own small child. And because it's kind of a darker scene, not as much light, because there's not a lot of movement going on, Durotan looks badass. However, his forced hero's journey throughout this movie kind of forces him to be involved in a lot of action sequences. And when it is bright during the day, when you're reflecting off people's armor, when there's no trees to suck up any of the other light, Durotan and the rest of the orcs look rubbery and they look bad. Like Spider-Man in the first appearance in his Civil War trailer, bad rubbery. With so much of this movie being dependent on the CGI, I think it is difficult for people who are not already a fan to be able to move past the rubbery kind of cheap nature of it. It is so distracting, in fact, that in the subplot between Ben Foster and Ben Schnetzer, in the more magical elements of this film, you just totally forget about it, and it seems very much off to the side and kind of rushed and uneven, and then in the end, I really didn't care about it, even though it was a through line throughout the story. I do think, again, that a lot of focus from Duncan Jones was placed on the computer-generated images, and I think a lot of the performances suffered for it. Ben Schnetzer in particular maybe could have been a lot of fun, but he really just feels like somebody reading lines, and Khadgar's a character whose name you forget about halfway through the movie and gets really annoying. What this all boils down to is, unfortunately, Warcraft is a movie that sometimes looks really good, has one really good performance, mostly looks rubbery, has rushed scenes, and bad dialogue. I think that fans, again, are going to have a great time because they're finally going to see these characters in these worlds being encompassed into a film, something that I know has been in the works for a long time and a lot of people were really excited about. However, I think it fails to move past that initial audience and envelop a new fan base in it because of their focus on the graphics. Now, this is a video game movie, so maybe I shouldn't be surprised, but I really wanted to like this movie, and quite frankly, I don't. In the spirit of our Comicbook.com rating scale from 1 to 5 stars, I'm gonna give Warcraft 1 star, because I liked seeing Dominic Cooper hanging out around it. So overall, The Feast for the Eyes didn't transcend for me. I want to know down in the comments what you thought of this movie. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Who was your favorite part? Like I said, King Dominic Cooper was my favorite part, so please share it with me. For more information on Warcraft, including the trailer and all kinds of behind-the-scenes goodness, head on over to Comicbook.com where you can find all of that. Follow them on Twitter at Comicbook. Follow me on Twitter at Ashley V. Robinson. Thank you so much for watching. Be safe and make good choices, because it's rough out there in the world of Warcraft.